Hello, and welcome for this session. This is going to be a session about Drupal Commerce. Can I see hands of people who actually used the commerce before? So I know what the crowd is. Okay, thank you. My name is Jakub Piasecki. I'm from here, I'm from Poland, but I've been living in Norway for a couple of years now. And I work for Centauro, the creator of Drupal Commerce. This session is going to be about the Drupal Commerce alignments with the Starshot initiative that you probably are familiar of. Just a quick refresher, what is Starshot? Starshot has some bold goals of making Drupal easier and more appealing to people. That's how we will sum it up. For us at Commerce, it's very important. This goal is very important, very aligned with what we think about commerce. We want for the commerce to be as available, as approachable to merchants as possible. So we revised a little bit our roadmap for the Drupal Commerce to incorporate some of the initiatives that are coming with the Drupal Starshot initiative. For example, recipes. We will talk a little bit more about this later. Experience Builder or AI. And our goal was to kind of think again about Drupal Commerce and how we will fit into these goals. So we are now talking about like what was happening for us probably a year ago. Yes, and for us it was most important to make Drupal Commerce more available to the mid-sector market, and for the Drupal Commerce to be as easy as possible, so that some people who maybe lack some development skills can also use it. We are talking ambitious site builders, we are talking marketers, content builders, etc. And with that, we also thought, okay, this also brings some opportunities to us. What are the opportunities that this can give us? We might have more fun because we are now have a place where we can contribute together on some new exciting projects. So we might have some happiness together, us as maintainers of Drupal Commerce and the community built around it. We can also define much better certain products that the commerce can be used to build. So, for example, instead of thinking about some abstract project like building a house, we can actually focus on building a house with a certain expectations that are being given by the stakeholder, so the house doesn't look like this when we build it eventually. We also want to introduce new people to Drupal, right? We want to have as many people using Drupal as possible, so that we all here, we have a job. And we have projects to maintain, we have projects to build, there is some interest. And I think a Starshot initiative is all about addressing this concern. Because with the site template that we will discuss again a little bit more later, we will, with having this marketplace of the site templates, we'll be actually aligning with other of our competitors. Like for the commerce bubble, we have WooCommerce, we have Shopify. They all have their marketplaces already, where clients can go or merchants can go in, compare them, use their site to compare them visually, maybe launch them quickly, evaluate, and then, choose one. Same with the big commerce. And we at Drupal, we don't have that. We have some sort of marketplaces, but they are all maybe personal initiatives by some companies or maybe certain private persons. So how do we at the Drupal Commerce, how do we started like looking at this? So first of all, recipes and the site templates. Have you, like anyone here, have you listened to Dre's note from Atlanta? It's been not a long time ago. It was in March this year. Dries talked about comparing Drupal to Lego a little bit. So there were like Lego bricks, there were that are in Drupal world and modules, for example. Then there are some sets that could be recipes, and then there are some like more and more. You go into the Lego world, you will like have this this concept that are comparable to the Lego concept in Drupal world. So. We will talk about the recipes now and the site templates that are collections of recipes with a team. So first of all, recipes, what the recipes are. So recipes are some instructions to Drupal, how to install modules, how to install themes, how to apply some configurations, how to apply default content on top of all of that has been built before. So there are 5 things that recipes do, and only 5. Recipes can apply another recipe. This is the first thing recipe will do. So if there are some dependencies to the recipe, that's the first thing that the recipe will do. It will apply another recipe. Then it will install the configuration, install the modules that are dependencies to the recipe. The third thing will be installing the configuration that is attached to that recipe or shipped with the recipe. Then it would apply the configuration actions, which are a more dynamic way of applying configuration rather than static YAML file. It is a PHP code that can be executed during the recipe application. And the fifth thing, the last thing that is happening is actually applying also a default content on top of that. And this is a very crucial also a piece, and more about this in a bit. So recipes can also take some default default input or custom input from user. So when you are applying a recipe, you can be asked, okay, you are now about to apply this recipe, but have you thought about this? For example, what would you like for your site name to be? Or maybe what's the email address that you want to put in there as your site-wide admin email address? Things like that can be put as inputs into the recipes, and then it can be used later in combination with the config actions that I mentioned before, to actually put a config that is based on the user input into your site while applying the recipe, while the recipe is being applied. One thing that I believe is very crucial here is that recipes are not a piece of code, in fact, so they are not to be installed. And I think it's very important that we never use the word installation to get a recipe in the same context. Well, in fact, there are some modules that can be a dependency to the recipe, and then they are being installed. But the recipe itself is never to be installed. Recipes are being applied. So recipes can be applied on the Drupal site that is already bootstrapped and is already installed, pre-installed with the, for example, installation profile. But the recipe is actually only being applied on top of that. So once it's applied successfully, it can actually go away. You can remove it altogether from your site's directory, and it doesn't have any impact on how the site works. So there are no code dependencies to be baked within the recipe, which proved some challenges for us as the maintainers of the commerce, but more about this again a little bit later. So what the recipes can give us in the Drupal commerce world. So for us, it's something that we could look at when we think about, okay, there are some modules that we are currently having that are just to bootstrap things, just to, you install the module and it configures things in a certain way. And the recipes can do just that. They are meant to do just that. And there is nothing that slows down the performance of your website because there are no additional dependencies being added to your site. We can also think about some general ideas. Okay, so with recipes, we can actually build the products out of what we are building, right? So we have, the Drupal core, we have some modules, some contrib modules, some themes, and then we are lacking this way of orchestrating everything together to actually build a platform out of that. We had these tools that were like installation profiles. We had these tools that, some people were using just modules for that. Just a module that is basically orchestrating other modules and installing them, uninstalling them, updating them, etc. But for us, it was like the general idea was that, okay, like with the recipes, we can actually start, creating some products around Drupal Commerce. So we can maybe have a product that will allow us to, or merchants, to easily collect donations. Or maybe it will be a product that easily put the merchant in a place where they can start collecting some money for their content that they're creating. And all of these tasks are actually quite complex. You've been using commerce, so you know how many things can go wrong with the commerce when it's installed in an incorrect way, or not to the standard that us as the developers, as the maintainers of the commerce, think about it, and when we are planning how the commerce should be used. We already have that product. So we already had that product for a long, long time. It is called Commerce Kickstart. Anyone here actually used the Commerce Kickstart before? Yeah, there are some hands. That's great. So the Commerce Kickstart was always to be the fastest way to use the commerce. So it's like, it should take you there, like this first mile, second mile, to get you to the point where you actually can start doing things that are custom. And skip all of that, the basic things like, all right, I have to set up the site, I have to theme it so it looks nice, and all of that can be actually, you can get this for free by using Drupal Commerce or Commerce Kickstart. So originally it was an installation profile, and it was an installation profile for a long, long time because we are developers, so we thought, okay, we want to do the most complex stuff ever, and we want to first of all give people like ability for them to start using Drupal Commerce with the Commerce Kickstart, but then we also want to help them like maintain this site for a long, long time. But that is a very difficult challenge, especially we're talking a little bit about these abstract projects. We don't know how Drupal Commerce is going to be used. So someone is taking Commerce Kickstart, which installs a commerce in a certain way, but we don't know how these people will evolve from there. So they might, keep it to whatever Commerce Kickstart already provides, but they might build another project that is, a project that is lightly connected with what Kickstart was been giving them, but actually put it way more far away from the starting point and get to the point where I don't know, maybe there's some membership platform built on top of that. And then it's very easy to destroy that by providing just one falsy update. So for us, with the Commerce Kickstart, it was a decision that we don't want to do that at this point. We don't want to maintain the sites that are being built with the Commerce Kickstart. And then again, recipes were a great way to address that need. So we will just put things up together in the standard for Drupal Commerce, and then it will be up to people to actually maintain it. Commerce Kickstart also provides a lot of demo content already. So, it can be evaluated out of the box. So once you install the Commerce Kickstart, you can actually see how it behaves with the content in it. So with that, there were 3 steps for us to kind of take the Commerce Kickstart the way it was and turn it to adapt it to the Starshot initiative, to make it more of a site template. Actually, the site template term came in first in March this year. We've been working on that before that, so we already felt that what the Starshot is doing will lead to that, and that's why for DrupalCon Atlanta we're already ready with some, not just some idea, but actually some examples. More about this in a bit. But with the Commerce Kickstart and probably other, I see Maciej here from Droptica, they are also doing like a Drupal installation profile in the past. With the installation profiles, it was very common to have also some custom code baked into that. Recipes cannot have that. As I mentioned, recipes are just installation instructions. So first of all, what challenges does it bring? The challenge of, well, basically you have to find a way, if you need that custom code, you have to find a way to bring it in. And there are many ways to do that. You can actually put it in the theme as a part of the pre-process hooks. You can make it contrib, if that's possible. You can actually reuse other contrib modules. But we saw that for us, with certain things that are very custom to the Commerce Kickstart, we still need some like a glue code that will put things together. And for that, we at Centraro, at Drupal Commerce, we created some of the modules that are basically assets module. We published them on Drupal.org, and these modules are serving some like functionality. Well, they help us to fill up the gaps where the custom code is needed. But the ECA is also very common practice nowadays to replace the custom code with YAML file, with a config YAML file. So at first we built, well, Commerce Kickstart was already containing a lot of submodules, but we thought, okay, first of all, we want to maintain all the functionality that we had in a Commerce Kickstart. We don't want to get rid of anything that was in there, but we also don't know if the way how we structured it before will be the way how we structure it now. So we thought, okay, so let's take it all together, put it all into the demo recipe, which is called Commerce Recipe Demo. It's the D point here. So we started there. We put everything that the commerce was doing into that one recipe, monolithic recipe, and then we proved that, okay, it's still working, it's still doing exactly the same things. So let's start breaking it down. And we started by breaking it down into the commerce base recipe, which is the same kind of, like, it's the building block for the demo. It's something that installs Commerce Kickstart in a way that, you know, it should be installed, but the demo takes it, again, extra mile and puts some demo content on top of that, etc., etc. We also thought, okay, maybe we should also take it time and reevaluate whether the admin interface that we've been using for many years, which has been something that we developed internally. It was a Claro sub-theme called Centraro Claro. We thought about this a little bit, and we decided to also align with the Drupal CMS and start using Gin for all our admin experience. And then while building all of that, we also thought, okay, let's establish some pattern for how contrib recipes are going to be created from now on. So we were talking about the Commerce Kickstart area so far, but then there is also people who want to use the commerce and not starting with the Commerce Kickstart. So people who maybe already on a Drupal CMS. So they already started with the Drupal CMS, but they also want to add some commerce functionality into their sites. So we started extracting, again, some pieces of that monolithic recipe and put them into the separate recipes. And that's how the recipe, commerce recipe core was created. This is a standalone recipe that can be installed on any site that will take you from zero to setting up actually all the commerce in the way that it should be set up initially. So you can start building on top of that. There is nothing really well defined to say that you are now limited to only selling products, or you're now limited to only selling donations or anything like that, or content. This is all part of the demo. In a demo, you will see that we actually added also some example functionalities like selling premium content, selling selling products, etc. And then there are some recipes that we started defining that actually can help you with some additional tasks. Like, for example, if you have a site and by default your site is installed with the administration role, maybe if you're installing it from the Drupal CMS recipe, or you are using a standard recipe, then we want to give you the ability to actually set up also some roles that are valid for the commerce applications. Like this is the admin, or this is the content administrator, and this is a customer relationship service agent. And we define these roles, and we use the recipes to also populate the permissions with these roles by default, depending on the state of your site. To reduce all the boilerplate, I already told you that we've been able to kind of get rid of all these custom modules and put them into recipe, but we also found that Drupal CMS is using recipe installer kit for their application, where the recipe installer kit is a standalone PHP composer available package that can be used to basically make the installer kit contain almost zero code. So basically you can define some things in the YAML file, and that's all, and the recipe installer kit will take care of collecting information about the site that you are about to install, putting the checkboxes, which recipe you want to apply, etc. It's a very nice, very handy thing. So if you are thinking about maybe changing your installation profile into recipe, or maybe you're building some product already, then the recipe installer kit is the way to go, in my opinion. There are some limitations still. One of them is there is no way for the recipe installer kit to collect the user input for the recipes to be used later, but there is an issue for that, and we are working on resolving that. So this is where we started. This was the Commerce Kickstart 4.x. This is before all of these changes, and this is how it ended. So for us, it's a measure of success. There is very little visual regression here. You might see some changes, right? There is a toolbar on the left now, when there was an admin toolbar on the top. Because of that, we had to move the local task to the right, and things like that. But we are happy with the gene. We are very happy with the gene, actually. This is growing on us. This is growing on our clients. Everyone is now very, very happy to be using Gene admin theme. And we just we stayed committed to the admin toolbar. So for us, I will show you it in a bit. We show the toolbar it uncollapses to the right when it's being used. Okay, so let's do the demo. It's going to be a short one. This is what you get when you go into installing a Commerce Kickstart, and then you can choose whether you want to go with the default content or not. Default content is the demo recipe that I mentioned before. I'll go with that. I can set the name for my site. I can put the email. Well, I have to do that, all of that. And then the installation commences. So Recipe Installer Kit is also doing a lot of smart work about deduping all the steps that needs to be done. You can see that there are 156 steps that are needed for the Commerce Kickstart to land in the state that we, the end state. Actually, there is a way more steps than that, because there are some recipes. Recipes may have dependency in other recipes. And all of that you can end up in a situation where there is one recipe and the second one, the third one, and they all share the same dependency in the primal recipe. And actually, recipe installer kit takes care of only invoking or application of each of these recipes only once. So it's doing a lot of deduping. So it's very, very handy tool to be used. It's not perfect yet, but it's great. So this is what the Commerce Kickstart looks like out of the box with the content installed. So you can see that there are some, this is a layout builder front page with some sliders, with a collection of products, some banners, etc., etc. Actually, you can purchase content, physical content or a digital content, so you can choose 2 different paths in the checkout with that. For the physical content, you will also collect shipping information. For the digital content, you don't need that. There are some physical products that do not have many variations. They are just like that. Basically, I can purchase any of these products. I can go in through the cart, to the checkout. In the checkout, I can provide my information. Let's say that it's preset to be for English market, for American market, I mean. There is already pre-installed payment gateway. That is a manual payment gateway, so any credit card can be, any credit card number can be used to make a payment. And yeah, that's it. And then there's a complete page. I can go to the orders. I can see my order is already in. It's completed for the total of something. 199. I can go to the payments. I can refund the payment if I want to. I can see all the billing information, shipping information, etc. We are actually working on this particular page. So we want this to be a little bit better because we feel like this is too slick. And we want to actually add, and this is going to be a part of the Commerce core. So be prepared that if you update to Commerce 3.1, you'll probably get a new experience on the complete page. Actually, it won't be available to you if you are already using Commerce, but if you have a new installation of the Commerce, then the complete page is going to change a little bit. It will expose more information. So as part of that, okay, so first things first. The admin toolbar that I told you about is actually presented like this. So right now, instead of the drop down from the top, we are having this left to right sidebar. There's also coffee installed. This is to adhere to to what the Drupal CMS already is doing. So the Drupal CMS came up with the idea that the coffee should be actually, if you are not familiar with the coffee, it's like a spotlight of from the Mac or Alfred. And so you can search for anything here, any menu item. And one of the things that we developed for Commerce Kickstart is this handy recipe tracker module that after it's being installed, it actually tracks all the recipes that are being installed. So once the recipe tracker is installed, you'll see all the recipes that are being installed in here. So you can see that at the same time, in fact, all of these were installed. And you can see actually the regression or one of the bugs that the recipe installer kit still has, that these two recipes should be like the duplicated, but they were not, and there is some still like a performance gains to be made within the recipe installer kit, so that a recipe does not install multiple times. Okay, and while doing this, I want to show you one more thing that I also worked on just a month ago or two. Okay, so if I refresh, I can now see there's a contrib module called Default Content Tools. that basically tracks all the default contents that was installed on the site. It knows that there are some sources with the default content, and it can show you contextually that the default content was installed together with this recipe, in this case, and giving you the ability to actually delete that content. So let's say that you are starting with a Commerce Kickstart, you are seeing all the Commerce Kickstart demo, you are seeing all this content, and now you're ready to actually start working on your site, and just you have this problem that you actually have to remove all of this content. So this module can actually help you, and you are installing the site with the demo content, and then you can, with the one click, just delete all the content, demo content that was installed. Yeah, so you can see actually that in this case, the base doesn't ship any content, any default content, and the core does ship some content. I think the core recipe ships default store. And then the Commerce demo is actually shipping a lot of content, some media entities, some files, some, lots of content. Anything more? And one more thing about this module. This module also allows you to actually set in a configuration which content should not be installed along with the recipes in the future. So you can basically install it very early and then define that, okay, a recipe, you have already, let's say you have already a recipe that you like it, and it's doing a great job for demoing content for when you're selling a product to your customers. But then you want to actually install this now without any content, and rather than like retracting from the content that has already been installed, then you want to define that, okay, I want to install this recipe or apply this recipe, but I don't want any content of this recipe to be applied along with the recipe. And this module also allows for that. Yeah, so I think that's it for the demo. Back to the slideshow. One more thing that I was hoping that I will get this ready before this session, but this is now in a dev state still. The Commerce recipe shipping recipe. This is a project on Drupal.org. By the way, projects on Drupal.org, if you are putting recipes there, they have to be put as a general projects. It's right down there underneath Drupal. Otherwise, it won't be discoverable for Composer for you. Anyways, the Commerce recipe shipping recipe is gonna take care of installing shipping module along with customer profiles for the shipping, configuring everything, tidying everything together, and some default content, so some default flat rate shipping rates, so that when you are installing this site with this recipe, you are actually having a quite usable demo. So that will be eventually part of the demo first, and then it will be exposed on the installer step, and you will be able to basically start adding, like checking off all the features that you need for your Commerce installation, rather than having everything installed and then removing things that you don't like. Yeah, the recipe tracker I already talked through. The default content tools I already talked to during the demo. There are also Commerce config actions. Config actions are pieces of PHP code that are part of the module that can be used later on while executing the recipe to basically do some dynamic stuff. And we created two config actions as a part of the Commerce config actions module. There is a module for that. So we are allowing now to import a currency by specifying the ID of the ISO code for the currency. And we also allow you to enable permission for the role, but only if that permission already exists. Because right now, like with the Drupal core, if you are trying to set a permission for the role, but the permission doesn't exist, you'll get an error. But with the user roles recipe that I talked about a little bit earlier, we actually want to install or apply the recipe and create the role if it doesn't exist yet, and then apply the permissions or grant the permissions, but only if these permissions already exist. So we are able to basically put everything into that one recipe for different scenarios where, let's say that there are some digital content, or maybe there's some donations, or maybe shipping module is installed or not. And depending on that, whether the shipping module is installed and the permissions shipped with the shipping module are available, then these permissions will be granted. And actually, you can apply the recipe over and over and again. It doesn't matter. Like for the demo, we made a conscious choice not to allow you to do that. So you are not allowed to apply the recipe, the demo recipe, Commerce Kickstart demo recipe on existing project. This has never been a target for us. We want for the Commerce Kickstart demo to be some starting point. But for many of these recipes that you will find in different places, you can actually apply them over and over again, and they will basically take you to the state that the recipe is at. So if you are missing some config, it will add that config that you are missing. If you are now installed some modules and you want to reapply the user roles recipe again, it will basically grant the permissions that we're missing. And yeah, with all of that, with all of the tools that we already created so far, we are hoping that we will be able to very soon start building a premium templates that are specific to certain verticals. So let's say that there is an NGO, and the NGO wants to collect some donations, maybe recurring donation. Oh, recurring, that's a great part of Drupal Commerce, but also very, very difficult for people to set up. And that we've seen so far, that people are struggling setting up recurring payments. We are hoping that with these premium templates, that are maybe going to be available on, we hope that they are going to be available on the marketplace on Drupal.org. And one, like the NGO, can go between different already pre-themed, nice-looking and pre-configured site templates with the recurring already pre-installed and pre-configured for them, and be able to basically use it from day one. And for us, we really hope to give, we really hope to help merchants to grow. So our idea is not to sell this suddenly for 100,000 millions of dollars, but our idea is to give a fairly low price, give some level of support, or maybe we will help people go live by them paying us some money. But we don't actually think about the assets that are part of this to be probably licensed anywhere else, in any other way than Drupal is already licensed. We are also working on a Figma project, soon to be public, hopefully. So there will be a Figma project where you will find different components that are already part of the Drupal Commerce. And you'll be able to use that Figma project to basically also plan your own deliveries based on commerce. And very quickly about the Experience Builder. Anyone here use the Experience Builder so far? Of course, to Andre. But it's still a bit unknown. So we are still waiting a little bit to the point where it's going to be a stable and give us this flexibility of also theming the sites directly in the browser. What we are already starting working on is identifying a single directory components that we can start defining within the Commerce core or the Contrib ecosystem for the Commerce. And the single directory components will be then exposed and available to Experience Builder the first day the Experience Builder is in production. And then with the artificial intelligence, with the AI, we are really hoping to do some work there. But we are now waiting for our clients to actually make it a customer-driven development workflow rather than creating something abstract for people to either like it or not. We talked with Jamie Abrams from the Freely Give, and we see that there is a potential for the search to be AIized, to put some intelligence in the search and help people use the natural language to search for a product. So I want to build or I want to go to vacation somewhere warm, and then it will give you proposals from your catalog, product catalog, for the places that are actually warm. And yeah, I'll skip that. All right, and some of these recipes that I mentioned already can be actually used with Drupal CMS. So here is a demo. Maybe I'll show the very quick demo here. So this is a Drupal CMS website, and I actually created a recipe for installing. Okay, I'll go to web folder. That's going to be easier. Commerce recipe event tickets. So Drupal CMS already ships with the events recipe that can create an event content type. And for example, we use our components to create this recipe that is meant for a Drupal CMS that will use our blogs that we also reuse in eCommerce Kickstart, and then allow you to collect the payment for the tickets. So for example, you have a DrupalCon Atlanta content type that was already shipped with the Drupal Commerce. And right now, we created a field, injected it into the node form that was, or the content type that was shipped with the Drupal Commerce, with the Drupal CMS event recipe. And we are adding you ability to define a ticket right there in line, give it a price, and you can sell it right away on your website. So you can put it in the cart, you can go to the cart and start the checkout process for it. So we are seeing that there are many opportunities for us at Commerce to also collaborate with other projects. That's why we are also trying to identify as many of these recipes that can be a building block for other recipes. We are now in a touch with the people over at Events Distribution who wants to also create like a Drupal CMS style distribution for local events. And they want to also incorporate commerce into their workflows. So we are trying to identify which recipes we have to create to allow them to basically do no-code application of the Drupal Commerce on their sites. Okay, so when all of that will be available, we know that we developers tend to not bring a lot of features and never tag it. But we actually decided, okay, let's tag it. So it's all available to you. You can create a project based on this project template that is using the Commerce Kickstart installation profile. The Commerce Kickstart installation profile uninstalls itself after installation. So it has it creates no security risk. There is no performance overhead or anything like that. With these 4 commands, you basically can start a project using Commerce Kickstart. And that's all from me. And thank you so much for coming here. I will advertise now the Commerce Slack channel. There's almost 3,000 of us. Maybe there will be a 3,000 after this session. Hopefully not less than it was before that. But you are always encouraged to go there if you're seeking help. Drupal maintainers are there, Drupal Commerce maintainers are there, ready to help you. We are really thrive when your projects that are based on the commerce succeeds. So we are happy to help if we can. And yeah, thank you and see you somewhere else. And if you have any questions, then there is a mic over there in the back.
I have a question about recipe dependency, because you are using a lot of that, like you build a recipe that relies on another recipe to be there. How's that going in practice? How do you test? Because obviously your recipes as well change over time. You have recipes that, for example, you showed the event ticket price, which relies on the event recipe, which is kind of probably changing over time as well, and will be changing. how do you or manage that? Because it's probably tricky, I would assume.
Yeah, I think right now the tools are limited. The tools, the only tool in your tool belt is probably Composer strict version constraint. So you say, okay, this recipe depends on that recipe that I don't maintain myself, and I don't know what's going to happen there. So I will probably pin it to something very strict, like, okay, my recipe depends on the other recipe, but on that version of that recipe, as a part of the Composer JSON definition of the recipe, because the recipes would have a Composer JSON file. So if I were to use a recipe that I don't maintain and I don't know how it's going to evolve, I'd probably use that tool to limit that this recipe. The one that I showed, the events, Drupal CMS events tickets, this is something that I did more for fun or for proving that things can be done. So it's on my personal GitHub. I can put it somewhere if you're interested in that. But so I don't feel very much obliged to kind of maintain it in a proper way. It was just a fun and DIY project. But for these more complex recipes that are depending on other recipes, I'd probably be very careful about using a version constraint in a JSON file, Composer JSON file, to basically pin it to the certain version. Or there is also this flexible way, once it breaks, then you'll get notice in the issue queue, right? So that's also the approach. Some people prefer to use that.
So for your recipes, because you also have your own recipes that you said, you have the core, then you have the admin UI, the other ones. So you're using the Composer JSON.
So we at Center, we are maintainer of many collections of the commerce recipes, module themes, etc. We quite recently revised our way how we approach versioning for all of our things, and we are fully committed to the semantic versioning. So we know that with anything we do in the major versions, we won't break it. So for us, it is safe that if we are reusing our own recipes, our own modules, we basically put the major version constraint in a Composer JSON file at the moment.
Thank you for the presentation.
I think it's some sort of a follow-up question about the versioning. As far as I know, I might be wrong, if you apply some recipe, then if, for example, this recipe changes in time, there's new release of a recipe, then in Drupal right now there is no way to, let's say, reinstall it. But I saw you mentioned this recipe tracker module, and there was this update tab. Can you share some more details?
There was no update. I think there is a delete only.
No, on the top bar, there are those. Oh yeah.
All right. This is admin modules namespace. So this is something that in Drupal was forever. This is for updating the modules. You will see here that there are some modules that are out of date, and you will be able to update. There are some country projects for allowing to expose it. There is also Project Browser. That's a big thing that I haven't discussed here yet. Project Browser will be a UI for Composer, for Drush in certain places. It will allow us to basically install or apply. It actually uses the install word for applying recipes, but it will allow us to apply recipes directly from the UI. And then right now, it actually limits you to only apply it once. And then once it's applied, you cannot reapply it. But there is an issue for that in the Project Browser. This Project Browser is a contrib module. So there is an issue for that to allow actually to reapply the recipe over time. That will also be actually put in here, but it will be Project Browser. I think in Drupal CMS, we already have that, right? So
I just kind of noticed that this is the Drupal core update.
Yeah, so in the modules extent, we have browse modules, and we can actually also, for recommended, we can see that there are, or it's already possible to reapply the recipe that was once it applied. So this is something that the Project Browser now ships with. It can take input, user input as well. So if you have a recipe that depends on the user input, you will also see it here. There is no way to aggregate that in lists from the Drupal.org as of now. So this is a customized, like manually crafted and curated list of recipes that Drupal CMS allow you to install through that interface. We are also looking for something similar for Drupal Commerce, but of course, like for Commerce Kickstart, because for Drupal Commerce in general, we won't be able to like compete, because eventually you have to compete, like either my whitelist or their whitelist is the one to be used. And we don't want that, but of course, like a project browser will evolve, and this interface will allow you to find the recipe on Drupal.org or packagist, pull it to your code base, and apply directly from here. Thank you. I think we are late for a lunch, so let's go. Thank you so much.